All right, so physics lecturer. I gotta say, not exactly the first thing that screams exciting career, right? I mean, am I wrong? When you hear that, it's like someone at a chalkboard, maybe with a really dusty textbook.
You're not wrong. It doesn't exactly have the same ring to it as, say, rocket scientist does it.
Exactly. But then I was thinking about it, like, what if it was you up there? What if you were the one explaining, the universe and how it all works to a room full of people?
That's a much cooler way to think about it.
Right. So that's what we're diving into today, the surprisingly, maybe fascinating world of a physics lecturer.
Because believe it or not, it's about way more than just knowing the
And to
formulas.
help us break it all down, we're turning to, once again, the folks over at RoleCatcher.com.
They've got some really insightful stuff.
You do. We're looking at their whole breakdown of like the career path itself, how to nail those interviews, even their whole job board is really cool.
Yeah, and it's not just about getting the job, it's about like thriving in that role. And one thing that really stood out to me when I was going through their career guide is how much more there is to this than just, like you said, being a talking textbook.
Okay, so spill the tea. What are they missing?
Research. It's huge,
Okay.
especially as you move up. It's not enough to just teach the stuff. You got to be contributing to the field, like publishing, collaborating, all that.
Oh, so you're not off the hook just because you're teaching. Interesting.
Nope. Think about it. The big names in physics, the ones making discoveries and stuff, a lot of them started out as lecturers, balancing their own research with teaching.
Oh, that makes sense. So it's like a stepping stone.
In a way, yeah. And then there's the whole mentorship side of things, too.
Hmm.
RoleCatcher really stresses that physics lecturers often end up mentoring not just students, but research assistants, even other teachers as they move up.
So it's a very collaborative kind of environment.
Absolutely. You're part of this whole community that's trying to advance knowledge. And that actually ties into another big thing they highlight: communication skills.
Which I guess makes sense. I mean, it's one thing to understand like quantum physics. It's another thing to explain it so that I understand it.
Exactly. And that's what makes a good teacher, right? Those moments when a student finally gets it, those aha moments, those are golden.
So let's say someone's listening and they're like, all right, you've convinced me, physics lecturer it is. What does that path even look like?
Well, the career guide breaks it into four main stages. So you start at the entry level, usually as an assistant lecturer, and it's a lot of, dipping your toes and everything. You're prepping materials, grading, supervising labs.
Well, okay, so really learning the ropes.
Yeah, exactly. And then as you get more experience and prove yourself, you move up to junior lecture.
And that's where you get to do more of your own thing, like teaching-wise, I mean.
Exactly. More independence in the classroom. Plus, that's where the research really starts to ramp up. You're expected to start producing and publishing your own work.
No pressure or anything. So
Yeah.
then what? Senior lecturer, what does that look like?
That's where you start to have a much bigger impact, beyond just your own little corner. Senior lecturers often help shape the curriculum, mentor other teachers, and even take on like leadership roles within their department.
Oh, so it becomes less about just teaching and more about guiding the whole department.
Exactly.
Wow, interesting. And then I'm assuming the top dog, the big cheese, is principal lecturer. What does that entail?
Pretty much, yeah. At that point, you're thinking really big picture, overseeing whole programs, securing funding. Basically, you're building the reputation of the whole department.
Okay, so it's not just about, like, loving physics, right?
Hmm.
It takes, I don't know, a certain kind of person to not just survive, but, like, thrive in that world. What do you think?
Oh, 100%. You need that passion, sure, but also dedication, resilience, especially with how competitive academia is. It's no walk in the park.
Yeah, speaking of competition, I imagine just getting your foot in the door, like the actual job search,
Yeah.
must be intense for these lecture positions.
It can be, yeah. But that's where RoleCatcher's stuff comes in handy. Their job board is specifically for academic jobs, and you can get really granular with it. Like, if you're only interested in renewable energy research and you only want to be in, say, California, you can actually narrow it down like that.
Okay, that's handy. But the feature that really blew my mind was their job spec analysis thing.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It like analyzes the actual job listing and tells you exactly which skills they care about most.
Right. It takes out the guesswork. Instead of just sending out the same resume 100 times, you can really tailor it to exactly what they're looking for.
So you're not just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it sticks.
Precisely. And actually, speaking of resumes, their Copilot AI, it helps you rewrite yours to like make those key skills really pop, almost like having your own resume writer.
Now that's where I'm talking about putting technology to work. But Okay, even with a killer resume, you still got to do the interview, which, let's be real, those can be scary.
Absolutely.
The worst part, right?
But RoleCatcher, they've got you covered there too.
They do. Massive database of interview questions. And get this, they categorize them by career. So you know those questions you're going to get about being a physics lecturer. You can practice those specifically.
Oh, wow. So you're not caught off guard.
Exactly. It's not even about memorizing answers, just getting used to the kind of stuff they ask so you can, give a smooth, confident answer.
Preparation is key. So we've talked skills, career path, how tough it is. But what about the work itself? Day to day, what's it actually like to be a physics lecturer? I mean, it can't just be chalkboards all the time, right? Right. Think about, say, a junior lecturer who's also really into research. They might start their morning going through student work, like grading labs or quizzes, giving feedback, that kind of thing.
Okay, so there's the teaching side.
Mm-hmm.
What about the research part?
Well, once they've dealt with some of that teaching stuff, they might head over to the lab, check on an experiment, analyze some data. Maybe they've got to troubleshoot some equipment.
Okay, so that's more like what I picture with a physicist in the lab doing experiments.
Yeah.
But it all ties together, right? The
Yeah.
teaching and the research.
Exactly. They're constantly informing each other.
Yeah.
Later that afternoon, this junior lecturer, they might be giving a lecture on, I don't know, quantum mechanics or something. Maybe they use simulations to explain it all.
That's cool, making it interactive.
And of course, they've got to field questions from all the students who are like, wait, what is going on?
So it's really about bringing those concepts to life, not just reading them from a textbook.
I dig it.
Okay, so we've seen teaching, research. What about the mentorship aspect? Where does that fit in?
Good point. So after that lecture, maybe they meet with a grad student they're mentoring, someone who's working on their thesis. That could be brainstorming, going over drafts, or even just, giving them a pep talk.
It sounds really demanding, but also, incredibly rewarding.
Exactly. You're always being challenged intellectually. You're contributing to, knowledge itself, and you're helping shape the next generation of scientists.
Okay, last question for this part. We touched on this earlier, but those interdisciplinary fields like the renewable energy or quantum computing you mentioned, where does a physics lecturer fit into all of that?
Great question. Physics is kind of like the groundwork for so many fields, like with renewable energy, you could have a physics lecturer researching new solar cells or how to make fusion power a reality, or even just designing more efficient wind turbines.
Wow, so their research could have a very real impact on, solving big problems.
Exactly. And then on the teaching side, they might create whole courses on, like, the physics of renewable energy systems.
Mhm.
So they're training the very people who will be implementing those solutions.
Very cool. So it's both, immediate applications and then long-term impact, too.
Right. Now, switching gears a bit here, one thing we don't always talk about with academic careers is the whole work-life balance thing.
Ah, yes, the ever-elusive work-life balance. I feel like in a field as demanding as this, that's got to be a struggle.
It can be, yeah. That pressure to publish, get those research grants, and climb that academic ladder, it's real. Easy to get sucked in and just work all the time.
I bet. Because it's one of those things where, the more passionate you are, the more it can kind of take over your life, right?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, that's for sure. So finding that balance, setting those boundaries, making time for yourself, it's crucial. Even if it feels impossible sometimes, especially early in your career.
So how do you actually do that? Are there any secrets, or is it just accepting that you'll be working all the time?
No, there are definitely things you can do. It's about being, I don't know, mindful, about how you spend your time, setting realistic goals, and honestly, learning to say no sometimes.
Boundaries. I need to get better at those.
Sure.
But easier said than done, right?
For sure. And then having something outside of work that, recharges you, whether that's family, hobbies, whatever. Taking care of yourself matters. It's not just about being a good physicist. It's about being a good human.
So true. Okay, last thing. Let's end on a high note here. What gets you pumped about the future of this whole field? Physics education and research, what has you excited?
Oh, man, where do I even begin? Just all the advancements we're seeing in quantum computing, nanotechnology, even astrophysics. We're on the verge of some seriously mind-blowing stuff.
I love that. It's that feeling of, limitless potential. We're just scratching the surface.
Exactly. And it's not just about, understanding the universe, though that's amazing in itself. These discoveries have the potential to, change the world, new energy sources, completely different kinds of computers. Who knows what's next?
Okay, now I'm getting chills. It's like we're living in a sci-fi movie, except it's real.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's an incredible time to be a physicist, that's for sure. And I can't wait to see what this next generation comes up with.
So to everyone listening who's now inspired to become a physics lecturer, any final words of wisdom?
Follow your curiosity. Never stop asking questions, even the dumb ones. And don't be afraid to shake things up a bit. Physics needs people who think outside the box, push those boundaries, and don't worry if you don't have it all figured out right now. That's part of the fun.
I love that. It's about the journey, not just the destination, right? Well, this has been awesome. A huge thank you to RoleCatcher.com for the incredible resources. Seriously, if you're even thinking about becoming a physics lecturer, go check them out.
Yeah, they've got everything you need.
And to all our listeners, keep those brains buzzing, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.